There are few games that I've come across that I've been more interested in the deep lore than the game itself. Fatal is different though. Fatal isn't a game, it's a meme in a Greek definition of course. An element of a culture or system of behavior passed from one individual to another by imitation or non-genetic means. In short, Fatal is a meme passed down to represent more than just fatal. I was thinking this through, but I think we need to break it down a lot more than usual, breaking into more philosophical terms, because fatal is a lot larger than you, I, or anyone else in this crab bucket. It's something very indicative, everything we have in our little industry of ours. So join me. I think the first question to answer is, what is Fatal more than anything? Fatal, or Fantasy Adventures in Adult Lechery for the first edition, or From Another Time, Another Land for the second. Originally, it was published in 2002, but the alpha of the game was released in mid-2000. Yes, Fatal is older than 9/11, and depending on the source, possibly even older than Y2K itself. But who made this game? Byron Hall is the main culprit of this endeavor, and Mr. Hall is an intelligent man with a master's in quantitative research methods and a doctoral work in structural equation modeling. The kind of man who says he enjoys shred guitar in the same sentence as neuroscience and statistics. This is important as the inception of Fatal places Byron in his mid to late 20s, but he wasn't alone in this endeavor. Far from it, there are three men cited as abattoirs who are important to its development. Jim Hausler, John Terry, and Ryan Key, all sourced as part of the experience. Of course, not citing the multiple playtesters and proofreaders across the US who assisted, but that doesn't really answer what Fatal is. At its core, it's a dark fantasy game about people being in a Europe with fantasy elements, except Christianity never took root and the pagan gods still rule. To be frank, the lore is equal parts nonsense and another part fascinating autism. Getting past all the dark and gritty aspects, there's a autistic level of detail that goes into everything in this nearly 1,000-page tome. Each of the 16 races are wildly unique and actively hate one another, being based on their mythical counterparts. Dwarves and elves are all fairy creatures, while humans and kobolds form the bulk of actual people in this treacherous land, all while ogres do their own thing, including eat children. But Europe itself is actually incredibly detailed. The size and width of the roads, what an inn is, how it works down to the public baths and what basic towns look like and their demographics. All of this has citations somewhere, even down to Hall just saying, hey, if you want a deeper explanation, read this book. But this is getting a little dull now, because in between most of the game has Hall talking about two things in life: whores, and the usual amount of fucking of those whores that goes on. Whores, women, and whores is 95% of the weird shit that goes into this book, even down to the local rape gangs of humans with an actual citation in it to back it up. Because that's what Fatal is at the end of the day, a weirdly autistic, detailed, dark fantasy Europe with this incredibly detailed acts of perversion mixed in the middle of it. But it's always jammed in there like there was some kind of weird shit quota in a section, or some book detailed the bizarre practice of Bingenhoven von Steubenbeck, and now it's just everywhere. But now you know that we're getting into it. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes. Explain Fatal's system, we need to understand that it is an average system. An average system need average characters. So let's make a character in average character. To make a character, we'll need to roll on this chart to determine who we are, with some of these races only having 1% possible, but with a dead-on 50, we're going to be human. Every race has a set of modifiers to their nature, size, skills, and everything else. The second most common race, the kobolds, have negative 15 bodily attractiveness. While they do have lower armor and life points than a human, in different temperaments and some basic skill bonuses do counteract it. Humans, however, have none of that shit. Our base armor is 10, our base base life points are 20. Every other race gets something, usually weird or rules written to the heart of their descriptions, but we need to move on as we're not throwing people off cliffs or living in the dwarf cuck shed. Okay, it's also time to note down the racial hatreds chart for everyone. Generally, if anything is above 4, it's rampant racism. Anything that's 5 is kill on sight. Now, our gender. Everything is modified by percentages quite rapidly, with some men enjoying being smarter and stronger by 30%, while women have bonuses to wisdom and charisma. All of this, of course, is cited with historical and medical documentation. Getting into the average system of Fatal, we need our age, body type, and the works. Most of these things are derived from a formula for more average results. For example, the average human's age is 4d100 divided by 4 minus 30, which adds up to raw 20. However, a bugbear would average out to about 26, which this system strives to find. So we're a 20-year-old human male. We need to find our height and weight because yes, both will play a part in creating our character, but again, we're average, which we end up with 70 inches and 5'10" exactly, perfectly average. If we were 2 inches shorter, we would end up with a lot of different modifiers than if we were 2 inches taller. Our weight is also perfect, 150 pounds, which unmodified by anything else. All of this is backed up by the square cube law and is necessary for gameplay. Being 5'10" and 150 pounds, we need to calculate our BMI, yes, our body mass index. After plugging in the equation of 150 divided by the square root of 70 times 705, we end up with a BMI in the upper end of 21. A bit on the low side, but healthy. As men, being under or overweight leads to severe penalties, while women receive massive bodily attractive rating for being underweight. Anorexia is a superpower in Fatal Europe, and that superpower is slut maxing. From there, we'll calculate our body part proportion, different for most of the races to reflect where our hit locations are and different possibilities of distributing our life points. Rolling on the attractiveness and repulsive features chart allows us to get various bonuses to facial and bodily attractiveness rating, which were average is going to become 0. Our hair thickness, though, on average, will result in us having thick, wavy, and oily hair, which is another negative 1d6 to our facial charisma, though. This is, of course, averaged out to be negative 3, unfortunately, but let's hurry on with some of this along. Vision is average, facial features are average, and we very much are not one in the million chance of being a freak of nature. You may be noticing that we're skipping something pretty important because the sexual feature section of character creation is actually entirely optional. Thus, we will not be calculating things such as our areola diameter, nipple length, tongue size, or manhood. If you're curious though, the penis equation is now being shown on screen. Note it down if you want. There are dozens of charts and diseases and vague promises of what characters can be and cannot be, but they don't really matter because those are extreme cases. We're average though. But let's do it. Let's calculate our basic ability score, which is 10d100 divided by 5 minus 1. Now, you may think these are physique, charisma, dexterity, intelligence, and wisdom, and you are correct, but we don't calculate those. No, we calculate the 20 sub-abilities first to get that. So, using the power of mathematics, behold our stats. 103 physical fitness, 128 strength due to being male, 99 bodily attractiveness, and 99 health, 93 facial charisma, 99 vocal charisma, 99 kinetic attractiveness, and 99 rhetorical attractiveness, 99 hand-eye coordination, agility, enunciation, and reaction with 97 language intelligence, 101 math and spatial ability with 99 analytical intelligence. We have 100 drive, 94 intuition, 95 reflection, and 99 common sense, averaging out our basic attributes to 107 strength, 97 charisma, 99 dexterity, 99 intelligence, and 97 wisdom. Congrats, we've created an average character. Now, every sub-attribute has a modifier, ranging from negative 99 to 74, which I can really only assume to be quadratic, non-linear, thought-form equation that just works to actually calculate it. We have, at the end of the day, a +3 physical fitness, +14 in strength, -3 to facial charisma, intuition, and reflection, and that's just about it. We are guy who is tough, and not really anything else. Everything has examples, modifiers, and notes with them, such as math having an average person being able to do algebra, while language has our vocabulary limit being up to instantaneous. But we'll need to go pretty high to be able to say anti-disestablishmentarianism reliably. And after all of that, we learn how to make a skill check finally, a 3d10 versus a target number. That's it. That's what all this is informing. 3d10 with an average probability of 16.5 modified by plus 3. You can score higher values, and you can roll above or below the values as appropriate, but the game is designed for you to be as average as possible. And as an average person, you're going to be rolling 3d10 versus a target number with probably a few modifiers ranging from plus 0 to plus 3. So let's get into the skills part though. Your skills, abilities, and class is actually your occupation. Since we're average, we would roll 1d1000 on the peasant occupation table, and for 500 we're actually just a farmer. You need to build advancement points to advance a level though, with every character needing 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, and so on to advance upwards. Reaching level 12 requires 2,048,000 experience points. As a farmer, we get agriculture plus 5 as our skills and get a special method of gaining XP. We farm. For every field of crops grown, we get 5 AP. For every field of never grown crops, we'll score 10 AP. So let's assume each acre of land, lowballing around 20 per family, and the field, which is never defined, takes up 5 acres, big ass fields, right? So every year we harvest 4 fields for 20 AP. That will be about, 50 years before we hit level 2. Though with unknown field sizes, let's say we can turn every acre into a field. So we escalate that up to 100 AP a year. Congratulations, you'll hit level 2 in a decade. But we need to optimize this further. What is a field really? If we field max correctly, turning our 20 acres into 10 microsections each, we have 200 fields every year, coming out to 1,000 XP a year. We'll be level 2 within the year, and 8 will be level 4. It would take a total of 64 years to reach level 7, of course, but we can further field max to increase our holdings to build our establishment up. Every single occupation is like this, taking hundreds of thousands of hours of work to build up to level 2, or needing to make millions of loaves of bread to become the baker of a sustainable level. Assassins, though, they get whatever the target's life points were times what an agreed upon wage was. Possibly hundreds or even thousands of XP for a low tier job. Fighting classes like the Knight or Mercenary or any of those other ones get AP by just damaging things. But what measures a level 2 farmer versus a level 5 farmer? We can agree that a level 3 Knight must be stronger than a level 1 one, and a level 10 assassin must be better at assassinating people than a level 5. Ignoring that thought, you're gonna get skills as you age. Our 20-year-old needs to track all the skill points that they have ever received, starting at his birth and ending at 20. Most of these skills are going to be having to be put into farming or farming related skills. You're going to end up probably with around 60 to 80 skills if you're 20, but there are many skills. If there is a skill, that's in the game somewhere. 3 comedy skills: brewing, delousing, enameling, fishing, hat making, music theory, and how can we forget parry, touch, wrestling, and urination. All of these skills have appropriate difficulties tied to it. To paint a masterpiece, you'll need a 34 or higher. To build a barge, you'll need 15 in shipwright, and so on. Combat follows a fairly rigorous set of needs and requirements, making a check against the current armor rating of the target. Beating that reduces life points based on the body part actually being hit, of 17 of them, but also needing you to make sure that you're calculating a variety of important factors like the fulcrum and swing velocity, none of which is actually can be calculated or even function due to those systems not being there. But combat and the rather extensive magic system isn't really the point of this video. Yes, even casting Greater Holocaust isn't actually that important to the fatal experience, you could say. You roll 3d10, you add your modifiers, usually not too many are required though, and that's it. But I want to ask a deeper question.
It's the best blanket that there could be.
People ask quite a bit, why is Fatal this way? I didn't talk about the sexual prowess mechanics, the tightness diagram, or rampant bugbear buggering, but that's in the game. A lot of it is, in fact. But I propose to you 3 little things I want you to really think about over one very simple question. Who is Byron Hall, and why did he make Fatal? The first answer is simple. Hall's a sex pest, a proto-incel, the sexual deviant who never touched a woman and only found glee in extreme torture torture porn and built a game and setting to calculate his sexual assault score to the most accurate degree. If you read through it, yes, that's the immediate answer, but it's too detailed, too intricate. You can drop the malaise and get right to the main event if that were the case, though. Why roll a dozen checks to make sure this even works? Hell, why make a game at all? The second answer is Hall is a mega autist. I say this with absolute sincerity by saying Fatal could have just been a series of massive hyperfixations. All of that math, know-how, and detail coming together to form the ultimate autism project. Every over-detailed section of lore, every intricate mechanic, every 1/10 of an advancement point for baking a fucking loaf of bread is built on one man's obsession trying to make an RPG of real life and justifying everything he can do in there with obscure texts and philosophical nonsense. A man so deep that the urination skill isn't strange, it's necessary for his vision. The final one is kind of what prompted all of this. That first line, Hall knew this was going to die on impact. Picture this, you're in your mid to late 20s wasting away in a math master's or doctorate and you love TRPGs. Every night you pen down notes for your awesome new TTRPG. It's going to be the realistic but with fantasy. There's going to be classes and monsters and everything you could want. It's ballooned, of course, 500, 600, 700 pages of stuff to account for, but trimming is half the fun, right? But then 2000 hits and 3rd edition D&D comes out. The industry begins to adapt and die. All of this work, all of this effort, and it'll be forgotten like it was nothing. Then a nasty little idea comes up. You get some friends, you get some playtesters, and you start changing the game. You want to be remembered. You want to get eyes on your game to make sure everyone knows that Fatal means business. But how? It needs to change to be more extreme, more weird, more strange, and suddenly 2002 hits, and Fatal is released. All of its warts and oddities, Cloak of the Bear Jew, and sexual assault mechanics. That's not the real game, of course. They'll see your genius. Your genius game that you spent all this time and all of this effort creating music for the game, being invested in creating this magnum opus of a product. And it works catastrophically well. Because Fatal is interesting, not because it is a game, not for its mechanics, its characters, its world. No. All of that pales in the face of the monolith in the desert of the forgotten and damned, where the dunes are pockmarked by the ruins of what was and never could, names scratched out of the lexicon of knowledge only to be dug up years later and quickly forgotten yet again. But in this barren wasteland, imperious in stature and girth, does a statue lie, a monument to sin and glory, to hubris and capitulation. It reads in simple text, "My name is Fatal, King of Kings. Look upon my anal circumference, ye mighty, and despair. Because as more come and more go, Fatal will remain, just as Byron wanted." My name is Notepad Anon, and this was Fatal, from another time, another land. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And many thanks to the plutocrats as always. Godspeed, and good luck.